East-West Schism is the break of communion between what are now the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches, and which began in the 11th century. There had long been ecclesiastical differences and theological disputes between the Greek East and Latin West. Prominent among these were the issues of the source of the Holy Spirit, whether leavened or unleavened bread should be used in the Eucharist, the Pope's claim to universal jurisdiction, and the place of Constantinople in relation to the Pentarchy. In 1053, the first step was taken in the process which led to formal schism. Patriarch of Constantinople Michael Cerularius ordered the closure of all Latin churches in Constantinople, in response to the Greek churches in southern Italy having been forced to either close or conform to Latin practices. According to the historian John Bagnall Berry, Cerularius' purpose in closing the Latin churches was to cut short any attempt at conciliation. In 1054, the papal legate travelled to Constantinople for purposes that included refusing to Cerularius the title of ecumenical patriarch, and insisting that he recognized Rome's claim to be the head and mother of the churches. The main purpose of the papal legation was to seek help from the Byzantine emperor in view of the Norman conquest of southern Italy and to deal with recent attacks by Leo of Ohrid against the use of unleavened bread and other Western customs, attacks that had the support of Cerularius. Historian Axel Bayer says the legation was sent in response to two letters. One from the emperor seeking assistance in arranging a common military campaign by the Eastern and Western empires against the Normans, and the other from Cerularius. On the refusal of Cerularius to accept the demand, the leader of the legation, Cardinal Humbert, excommunicated him, and in return Cerularius excommunicated Cardinal Humbo and the other legates. This was only the first act in a centuries-long process that eventually became a complete schism. Still, the Church split along doctrinal, theological, linguistic, political, and geographical lines, and the fundamental breach has never been healed, with each side sometimes accusing the other of having fallen into heresy and of having initiated the division. The Crusades, the massacre of the Latins in 1182, the West's retaliation in the sacking of Thessalonica in 1185, the capture and siege of Constantinople in 1204, and the imposition of Latin patriarchs made reconciliation more difficult. Establishing Latin hierarchies in the Crusader states meant that there were two rival claimants to each of the patriarchal sees of Antioch, Constantinople, and Jerusalem, making the existence of schism clear. The Second Council of Lyon in 1274 and the Council of Florence in 1439 attempted to reunite the two churches. Despite acceptance by the participating Eastern delegations, no effective reconciliation was realized, since the Orthodox believed that the acts of councils must be ratified by the wider Church and the acts of these councils never attained widespread acceptance among Orthodox churches. In 1484, 31 years after the fall of Constantinople to the Ottoman Turks, a Synod of Constantinople repudiated the Union of Florence, officially stating the position that had already been taken by Orthodox in general. In 1965, Pope Paul VI and the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople Athenagoras nullified the anathemas of 1054. Although this nullification of measures taken against a few individuals was essentially a goodwill gesture and did not constitute any sort of reunion, contacts between the two sides continue. Every year a delegation from each joins in the other's celebration of its patronal feast. Saints Peter and Paul for Rome and St. Andrew for Constantinople, and there have been a number of visits by the head of each to the other. The efforts of the ecumenical patriarchs towards reconciliation with the Catholic Church have often been the target of sharp criticism from some fellow Orthodox.